Hi, I'm Mike Cerrone with Mastermind Agent, and welcome to the webinar, How to Turn I Want to Think About It into Yes in 3 minutes or less. Have you ever had a seller stall after you finish your presentation? Learn how to get them off the fence fast. That's what we're going to be talking about in this webinar. We'll be starting up in the next 5 minutes, so thanks for joining me. If you're just getting in, why don't you do this? Why don't you type in your city in the chat box? Let me know where you're from, and that'll also get you in there so you can ask questions in the Q&A later. Just type in your city at the bottom, press enter. When you do, the second screen pops up that says log in. Don't worry about logging in. Just go to number 2 and type in your name there where it says temporary name. Just type your name in and press go. When you do, you'll be in the chat box and you'll be able to ask questions as we go. So we'll be getting started up here in about 4 to 5 minutes. So go ahead and get a drink, get some paper and pencil, and looking forward to a great webinar. Hi, this is Mike Cerrone with Mastermind Agent, and you're in the right place if you're here for the webinar, How to Turn I Want to Think About It into Yes in 3 minutes or less. This is where you've ever had a seller stall after you finish your listing presentation. Learn how to get them off the fence fast. That's what we'll be talking about today. If you're just getting in, go ahead and look for that question comment box, that chat box on your page there. Depending on which device you're on, it'll be on the right or be underneath. But go ahead and type in your city name there, your city where you're from in the box, press enter. When you do, the second box will pop up that says login. Don't worry about logging in. Just type in your name on number 2 where it says temporary name and press go. When you do that, you'll be part of the chat and you can ask questions during the webinar. You can communicate. So go ahead and get that set up. We'll be starting up in about 2 to 3 minutes. So if you need to use the restroom real quick or get a drink of water, get some paper and pencil, now'd be a great time. Hi, I'm Mike Cerrone with Mastermind Agent, and welcome to the webinar, How to Turn I Want to Think About It into Yes in 3 minutes or less. Ever have a seller stall after you finish your presentation? Learn how to get them off the fence fast. That's what we'll be talking about today. If you're just coming in, go ahead and let me know where you're from. Go ahead and type in your city. In the bottom of that chat box, press enter. When you do, this little white box will pop up and it'll ask you to type in your temporary name on line number 2, press go, and then you'll be in the chat box for the rest of the training session. So hope everybody's doing well out there. This is a live session. It is November 7th. It's my dad's birthday today. Pretty happy for him. And it's almost 11 o'clock here in Mountain Time. That's where I'm at. If you're on the West Coast, it's 10 a.m. If you're on the East Coast, it's 1 p.m. And if you're central, then I believe it's noon. So we'll be getting started in about 1 minute. If you're just getting in, again, go ahead and type in your city name at the bottom of that chat box. Looks like we got a lot of shy people today. That's okay, by the way. If you don't want to participate in that, that's fine. But if you do, go ahead and type your name, your city name into the bottom there. Press enter. When number 2 pops open with temporary name, just go ahead and type your name in and press go. And you'll be in that chat box so you can ask questions as we go and be part of that Q&A. So you only have to do that once, and then you're in the system. So we'll get started in about a minute. I'm just going to get a quick drink, and then we'll get rocking. All right, hi, I'm Mike Cerrone with Mastermind Agent, and if you're here for the webinar, How to Turn I Want to Think About It into Yes in 3 minutes or less, you're in the right place. And we're going to talk about if you've ever had a seller stall out after you finish your listing presentation, learn how to get them off the fence fast. So that's the topic for today. And if you're just getting in, go ahead and look for that chat box there and type in your city at the bottom. Let me know where you're from. And over there, a screen will pop up that says number 2 with temporary name. Type your name in there, press go, and you'll be in the chat box. All right, looks like we've got Eric from Madison, Wisconsin. Welcome, Eric. Deborah from Surprise, Arizona. Welcome, Deborah. It's awesome to have you. And we got Jacob from Anchorage, Alaska. Wow, fantastic. Welcome, Jacob. And we've got Gwen from Westminster, Maryland. Welcome, Gwen. We're going to have a fantastic session here today, and real excited to talk about the topic with you. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll start the recording and jump in. By the way, I'm trying to record this. Sometimes I fail, and if I'm successful, we'll have a replay. If not, at least you're here live and you can get the information. So here we go. Hi, I'm Mike Cerrone with Mastermind Agent, and welcome to the webinar, How to Turn I Want to Think About It into Yes in 3 minutes or less. Ever had a seller stall after you finish your presentation? Learn how to get them off the fence fast. This is going to be a deep dive. We're going to be going quick and to the point. We'll be done in about 60 to 70 minutes. I'll try to get that done as quick as I can. We also leave time for Q&A at the end, and there will be no replays unless I can figure out how to do that record properly. Works better than half the time, but you're here live just in case. So good job. Please stay to the end. It's going to be a great session. If you have questions, go ahead and type them into the question box as you think of them. Of course, I won't be answering questions as we go because I'm not talented enough to go back and forth, toggle back and forth, but I will be doing a full Q&A session at the end. All right, yeah, I just noticed that it looks like we got May from Hawaii. Hey, May, welcome back. And Claire, welcome. That's fantastic. Oh, I'm sorry, Eve, Claire, welcome. That's fantastic. Glad that you could all join us. Looks like I have a lot of people on, but only a few people participating in chat. And as I said, that's okay, but I'm excited to do this. This is all live, and feel free to ask me any questions you have. Again, it's November 7th, 2017, about 11 a.m. my time. I think that's about 1 o'clock Eastern time as a comparison. So wherever you are in the country, thanks for joining us. All right, so you're in the right place if you're a real estate agent and this has ever happened to you. You make a fantastic listing presentation, the seller's nodding their head up and down and agreeing with everything you say, and you start to wrap up and ask the seller to sign the listing agreement. But all of a sudden, the seller stalls and they stop the process cold. Then you hear the dreaded words, I want to think about it. You want to scream, what do you need to think about? You just agreed with everything I said. But you know, if you say that, if you use that tone, you're only going to get yourself in hot water. Plus, you know, if you leave, the odds of getting the listing rapidly decline. And the next agent through the door is probably going to get the listing. So you're kind of stuck in this catch-22, right? If you press them hard, you look like a pushy salesperson. But if you do nothing, you're probably going to lose the listing. Well, if you've ever found yourself in this situation, you're in the right place. I have a solution for you. It's simple and effective. By the way, you might notice that I'm kind of reading down the bullet points as they pop up. That's to keep me on track so I don't go on a tangent and make this much longer than it needs to be. Also, I want to make sure that I'm covering all the points to get you this excellent education. All right. And oh, there we go. Here's what you're going to learn today. You're going to learn how to turn a seller no into a yes in 3 minutes or less. And more accurately, how to turn a seller I want to think about it into a yes. Now, let's be honest. I want to think about it really is the seller saying no, right? If you just leave it there, you're done. You remember that from being a kid when your parents said, you asked to go out to the movies and your parents said, I want to think about it. You knew that was basically no, unless you could figure out a way to convince them otherwise. So I'm going to be showing you a simple yet effective technique that will turn this situation around and get the seller off the fence and get you an answer in 3 minutes or less. And often the answer becomes yes. So you'll understand the simple psychology behind the successful technique and why it works so well. So you're going to see the script. We'll talk about the scripting and what you should be saying and how to say it, what tone you should be using. So if you stay to the end, I got a free surprise for you. I've got this seller lead sheet. This is a seller intake sheet. It's my personal one that I use to find the seller motivation and timing, and also the set appointments when I listed 21 homes in 30 days. So it's very effective, gets all the information that you need, but it's designed so that you can get it real quickly with a rapid entry and get down to setting that appointment with the qualified sellers. So who is Mike Cerrone and why should I listen to him? All right, so for the folks that have been with me before, I apologize. I'm going to be dragging you through this again, but you'll know more and more about my background. And for my new people, you get to find out who I am. So I've got 24 years with a real estate license. I started out real slow. I only sold 7 homes my first full year. My broker told me I was doing great, but I didn't feel like it because I was living in a little one bedroom, wasn't even a bedroom, it was a studio apartment, a little teeny apartment, driving an old beat up station wagon and eating top ramen. It was a lot of fun. No, it wasn't. But anyway, I finally figured some things out and I stalled out at about 20 closings per year. So I got my volume up, but then I couldn't get past this ceiling of 20 closings. And I did that 3 years in a row. And I thought, geez, how am I ever going to make enough money to make things work out here? Well, I was kind of stuck, but I was also hard-headed. Excuse me. I kept thinking that I needed to make it on my own. I needed to be my own person, my own man. And so I wouldn't listen to advice. I mean, I'd listen, but I'd kind of blow it off. I kind of wanted to invent everything myself. Have you ever found yourself in that situation? Yeah, it's great when you figure things out and they work out. You get to have a lot of confidence and excitement, but it does slow down your progress. Well, 19 years ago, I heard about a 1-hour videotape of a top agent demonstrating his listing presentation, and I knew if I could focus on listings, I would not only stabilize my income, but grow it. And I knew I needed to stabilize it, though, because I was working with buyers, and I was on that income roller coaster where you're making a closing 1 month, you're all excited, and the next month or two, you're looking for a next buyer, and you're not making any income. Well, I just needed to figure out how to do it. But I wouldn't invest the money. There was, again, this tape, and they wanted about $1,000 in today's money for it. And I thought, that's crazy. I can't spend that. And so I passed on it. Well, every time I struggled in the listing appointment, which was pretty much every listing appointment, and I didn't get them signed, the few that I was able to go on, I remember that tape. And I thought, what if I just knew what those top agents were doing, maybe this wouldn't be so difficult. Well, 1 year later, I finally broke down and I invested the money and I bought that tape. And it took over 2 weeks to get to me because it was old snail mail, right? And it came into me in this big box, and I ripped open the package, and I couldn't wait to watch it. So I rushed home that night, and I slammed it into the tape player, the VCR. It shows how old it was, but I watched it over and over again. I kept rewinding it, watching it, rewinding it, and watching it. And the next day, I had a listing presentation, and I just took a couple of those little suggestions, and I made a couple quick tweaks, and that night was so easy to take that listing. It was kind of weird because his words kind of started coming out of my mouth. It kind of shocked me at first, but then I noticed the seller liked it, so I just kept going. Anyway, it was pretty cool. So I spent a few more hours rewatching the video and tweaking my presentation, and I just kept modeling that top agent. You know, what he said, how he presented to the seller, and if I did what he did, all of a sudden I start to get these great results. So everything started to go up from there. And that year that I focused on listings, my production doubled. I finally broke through that ceiling, and I didn't just go up, I doubled. I went from 20 to 41 closings in 1 year. That was a very exciting time. And then it continued to master my presentation, watching that tape and testing things out. And soon I was listing 5 to 10 homes per month. And then things really got exciting, right? And so my best month, I ended up listing 21 homes in 30 days, and that was at 21 different kitchen tables. That wasn't a bank REO account. That wasn't a builder handing me a bunch of transactions or listings. Wasn't a friend or cousin giving me a bunch of theirs. It was all different sellers that I didn't know, and I had to go out and present to them. Well, my production jumped to 95 closings that next year. So I went from 41 to 95. I doubled again. Again, listings is so powerful. And if there's anything I could tell you, if you get out of this call, and if you're not doing it already, focus on listings. That's where you're going to get leverage. That's where you're going to make a ton of money. You're going to get more consistency of your income. You're going to get off that real estate roller coaster where you're up in that 1 month and down the next. Well, then the next year, I was able to stabilize at that high level, and I went up to 113 closings in 1 year. And I was very fortunate. I was listed in the top 300 salespeople in the nation by the National Association of Realtors magazine, and I couldn't find that magazine. I've since lost it somehow, but I did go online. I found this, which shows the top 300 salespeople, and I was ranked number 263. And here in Lakewood, Colorado, closed 113 homes. And I was just noticing that look who's number one, Alan Dom. If you all recall, if anybody remembers Alan Dom from like Star Power and so forth, look at that, 754 transactions in 1 year. So it was pretty exciting to be on this list with these incredible people. Well, it just kept getting better, right? It kept getting better as far as my success, and I was able to close out hundreds of transactions a year. The only mistake I made, though, was waiting that 1 year to buy the tape. That, if I had to look back at it, that was the big error. You know, I've literally made 1,000 times my investment back over the next few years, and I wish I wouldn't have lost that year by waiting. That was an error. But I realized this listing process is transferable, and that was kind of the next aha moment. Once I could figure it out, and then could I get this information to other people, right? So what I did was I decided to hire a listing agent, and it was very unusual at the time. There were almost no listing agents, and I can't think of any in my market, but I knew of some around the nation with some top agents. So I thought, I'm going to do this. And it was, again, very new concept. And because of that, even when I did describe it to people, nobody wanted to do it, which really surprised me. But I found a young man in his 20s. His name was Jamie, and he raised his hand and said, yeah, I want to do it. And he'd only had his license for 6 months, and he'd closed 2 buyers in that time and never taken a listing. So he sounds like a perfect candidate to be a listing agent, right? But he was the only one who applied, you know, and he was a nice guy. And so I said, all right, I'm going to give him a shot. Well, the first month, I trained him just a few hours a week, you know, between all my appointments, and he started to get restless because I wasn't giving him a lot of attention, and he was thinking about leaving. And so the second month, I said, you know what, let's do this. Why don't you go on a few solo listing appointments? I can't go with you, but use my reject leads. And so if you get them, great, and if you don't, that's fine, because they're just practice, right? And to our amazement, he started listing homes. Over half the appointments he went on, he started listing in his second month, right? And then his third month with me, he listed 14 homes in 30 days, and he was earning a net of $10,000 per month. That's net, no costs. And it was a very small percentage because I didn't know what the percentages should be to pay out. And it was fantastic. He was excited. I was excited. And the reason I'm telling you the story is because it's all comes down to modeling, right? How did this work? Well, I modeled the top agent, and all of a sudden I had success. And then Jamie modeled me, and he had success. And look how rapidly he had the success. And if a guy who only has his license for 6 months can do this, how fast could you get up and running? All right. So, well, what happened to the rest of the story? People ask, Mike, what did you do after that? Well, I went on to build real estate brokerages, mortgage brokerages, real estate investment companies, sold, and now I'm semi-retired from real estate. And I don't know if you've ever got to that point or seen other people have it, it starts to get kind of boring. So I decided I want to go out and do things that I enjoy doing, and I really loved real estate and want to do more of that. So I started interviewing the top agents in the nation for success calls because that had given me so much information. To watch these other top people, it inspired me, and I didn't think there was enough of it going on out there. So we started up success calls on the Mastermind Agent Network. And occasionally I host summits with top trainers and top agents so that we can get that information out as well. And I recently hosted the Listing Agent Summit where 14 top agents demonstrated their listing presentation in detail and showed us their exact presentation scripts and handouts. So now I'm going to share some of those findings from that summit with you. Now, who were these top agents? These really are top agents. You got Eric Hatch, 508 homes worth $108 million in 1 year. Chantel Ray, 1,300 homes to be sold this year. Brian Macker, 235 homes worth $45 million in 1 year. Melinda Estridge, 120 homes worth $70 million. Did some higher end pricing. Nate Martinez, you got 616 homes worth $68 million. We got Patrick Tuttle, 80 homes worth $15 million. Also, there's property management for a couple hundred homes, a couple hundred properties. And you got Paul Wheeler, 248 homes worth $35 million. You got Judy Jackson, who listed 7 homes in 7 days. She's a listing specialist on a top agent team, and she was able to rapidly get up and going because she was able to see those models and tap into them. Also, she told me, by the way, she was able to get rid of working on the weekends and the evenings, which is what she loved the most about it. Shane White, 212 homes at worth $36 million. Got Steve Cohen, who did 106 homes worth $26 million. You got Shar McCullum, 210 homes worth $35 million. Bob McTagg, 210 homes worth $32 million. Wayne Turner, 286 homes worth $51 million. And Denny Grimes, 400 homes worth $150 million. Again, I go through that because I want you to know these really are top people that we're going to be learning from. I watched their stuff. I started to obsess like I did when I originally got that tape. And I watched the 14 agents demonstrations of their listing presentation over and over because they're all in video. And I watched the training sessions and I couldn't believe the amount of details that they were sharing. It was really incredible. And I started to pick up things in the third viewing I missed in the second, and the second viewing I missed in the first, because they just give so much, which is actually great because you're absorbing all of it, but it's pretty incredible. So each top agent was sharing, and it was awesome. So I want to look for the patterns and mimic their best practices, right? Because that's the key. How can you take what they're doing and put it into yours? And so I ended up creating this 39-page listing presentation template, right? You can just go ahead and put in your information. All of a sudden, you have a listing presentation. It's really fast. And what I did was I just modeled those common elements in those top agent presentations. I'm very proud of that. But now I'd like to share with you a major lesson that I learned. And in order to understand that, again, because I obsessed on the process, I was able to look for this pattern of these 14 top agents and put in a 10-step listing process. This is what they're all following top to bottom to make it really quick, right? They all did each section slightly differently, but this is the format they use. So number one, when that call first comes in, they screen and set. They don't just run out to the listing appointment as soon as the call comes in. They want to qualify that seller for motivation and timing and make sure it's going to be worth it for them to go out there. If it is, now they're going to set the appointment and get going. Now, they're going to send out a pre-listing package to get them prepped for that seller, pre-sell them before they get there. Then when they do get there, they're going to do a quick greeting, Okay, they're going to establish that relationship very fast within the first few seconds, and then they're going to tour the home. They're going to create that rapport. Then they're going to go back and they're going to requalify. They're asking themselves, do I even want to be here? Let's make sure nothing has changed. Once they do that, now they're going to establish their expertise. They're going to go into their marketing plan. They're going to show the value of the home. They're going to talk about the net sheet. They're going to close and handle any objections that pop up. And then they're going to tell the seller what happens next. Today, we're going to focus on number 9, the close and handle objection section. What happens if they say, hey, I want to think about it? And you go, what do I do? Well, we're going to talk about a great way to handle that. Okay, so this idea comes from top agent Wayne Turner. Have you ever gotten to the end of your listing presentation? Everything's gone so well, and you ask the seller to sign, and they say, I want to think about it. You remember that used to drive me crazy. Well, if this has happened to you, you're not alone. You're not alone. You're in good company. It's happened to me and probably every agent who's ever listed more than their parents' house. And maybe some people had it happen at their parents' house too. Top agent Wayne Turner, who sold 286 homes in his best year, had this happen too often to ignore. So he decided, I got to figure out a way to handle this. So Wayne got curious and tried some different solutions. At first, he tried the standard acknowledge, probe, isolate, and solve technique, right? And we're going to review that in just a minute. But many times, that's all it took, and that works great, by the way, and we'll talk about that approach. But for most sellers, they were still stalling, and Wayne would have to leave empty-handed, right? And that's not fun. And so, but often he discovered that they would sign with another agent, and that really put him into a stupor, right? So he invented the step-away technique, and it worked great. So let's walk through the problem again, right? Let's reestablish what the issue is. So we need to get into the seller's head and understand the solution options from their perspective. What is happening that's making this problem pop up? Well, imagine yourself sitting at the kitchen table with the seller, and you go through your entire presentation and you talk about their motivation and timing. Are they qualified? So you're doing that recap. And then you talk about their track record, about your track record and that you're qualified. And then you talk about the CMA, the values and the prices, and everything's looking great, right? They agree upon the price. And then you talk about the net sheet, and they like the money and how much they're going to net out. And they're nodding their head and everything's looking good. They're even saying, yes, yes, yes. Everything's looking fantastic. And then you hit the wall, right? You get ready for the forms to finish, and you're ready to get the forms finished and leave with your victory, right? You're sitting there all excited, and you hit that wall. And you ask the seller to sign the listing agreement, and the seller says, I want to think about it. And again, you're thinking in your head, what do they need to think about? Yeah, I answered all their questions. Why are they stalling? The panic starts to sink in, and you feel sick to your stomach, right? And from your past that 2 things are going to happen next. 1, you're going to press too hard. You're going to really push, and that seller is going to reject you as a pushy salesperson, or you're going to walk away meekly, and then you start chasing them later with follow-up, but they're going to hire another agent. So you kind of lose either way if you don't handle this right. And what went wrong? Right? That's what you got to ask yourself. What went wrong? And you should always do that if anything happens wrong in your business. And that's, by the way, where you learn a lot and you do a lot of growth. Well, you have to know why. Why did the seller stall? If you can figure that out, you can fix it for next time. Well, here are the 3 most common reasons that a seller is going to stall. Number 1, clarification. They didn't understand something and they need clarification. 2, condition. They have a problem that cannot be resolved at this time. 3, conference. They need to talk to someone to confirm this is a good decision. All right, well, let's walk through them. Let's talk about the clarification stall, right? If the seller stalls for clarification, you can use the traditional solution, which is acknowledge, probe, isolate, and solve. Acknowledge, probe, isolate, and solve, the APIs. So first, acknowledge. And here's our scripting, by the way, if you want to write down some scripts. So here we go. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can appreciate that you want to think about this. It's a big decision. Now you probe. May I ask what specifically you'd like to think about? Now, sometimes they're going to give you a simple answer like, I don't want to include the washer and dryer in the sale. My grandma gave me those and I want to keep them. Aha, very good. Well, now let's isolate. Is this the only thing preventing you from hiring me today? Yes. Great. Let's exclude the washer and dryer from the cell. You can take the washer and dryer with you to your new home. I'll write that in right now. Let's get your home on the market. Sign right here. And you give them the assumptive close. It's that simple. But the key is to probe, find out what's going on, and then isolate, make sure that's the only issue, and then give them the solution. All right, let's take this a step further, the clarification stall. So sometimes the seller will not answer your open-ended question, right? So what you're going to do, by the way, open-ended question is where, open-ended question is where you ask a question and they have to give you more than a yes or no answer, right? You can't answer the question with a yes or no. Okay, so let's talk now, though, about these closed-ended questions. When you ask your open-ended question, they just say, I need to think it over, or I need some time. You need to go back to your APIs technique and acknowledge, probe, and isolate and solve, but do it now with the closed-ended questions, yes or no answers. So, for instance, let's start over. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can appreciate that you want to think about it. It's a really big decision. And then you probe, may I ask, are you concerned about the price? No. Are you concerned about the time it will take to sell? No. Are you concerned about the fees or cost to sell? No. Are you concerned about the marketing? No. So this is going to go very, very fast with these close-ended questions. Are you concerned about me or my ability to sell your home? Pause. Yes, you've only been selling real estate for 1 year, and I'm concerned about that. Well, let's isolate it. I understand that is true. I've only been selling real estate for 8 months, but if I could show you how that is a benefit to you, would you be willing to hire me today? Yes. Or they might say, maybe. Okay, now you've moved them a little bit. Now we're going to solve. First, I have an entire office of veterans behind me to answer any challenge that may arise. Second, my broker has 21 years experience and will be working with me to ensure a smooth transaction. Third, I'm new and I'm aggressive. Because I don't have a lot of clients right now, I can dedicate the majority of my time to finding a buyer for your house. I want you to be so happy with the results that you tell all your friends and family to hire me. Are you ready to put me to work? Yeah, perfect. By using the APIs technique, again, acknowledge, probe, isolate, and solve, you'll be able to resolve most clarification stalls and get to a signature today. Okay, so be sure you write that idea down, this APIs technique, acknowledge, probe, isolate, and solve. Let's talk about the condition stall, okay? What is that? It's often discovered while you're using the APIs technique, while you're digging. Okay, so let's give an example. You acknowledge, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can appreciate that you want to think about this. It's a big decision. And then you probe, may I ask what specifically you'd like to think about? Well, we have a problem. There's a third owner on title, my sister, and she hates me. She'll never agree to let us sell the home. Or, I declared bankruptcy last month and the judge said that I cannot sell the home. Or, I just received a notice that the city is condemning our property and taking it over to build a new Walmart. Or, I'm not sure I even own this home. I signed a napkin at a poker game that pledged my house. I actually heard that once. Yuck, yuck, yuck. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with it? So these are conditions, right? Maybe you can fix them if you're willing to spend an incredible amount of time and effort. Or maybe you should just walk away because they're going to eat up so much of your time. Or maybe you should run, right? Go find yourself another seller. Next. All right, now let's talk about the third stall, and that's the conference stall. Conference stall is basically when the seller likes you and your services, but they need to conference with someone to get a second opinion and get confirmation that this is a good decision. So now you're thinking, it's probably their mother, their father, their attorney, and sometimes that happens. That could be it. But often the seller needs to conference with their spouse. and their spouse is right there at the table, sitting right next to them. But you're in the way of them talking, and they need to talk to work this out. And that's where the step away technique comes into play. Okay. So let's talk again about top agent Wayne Turner and how he figured this out. He used all the traditional techniques like the APIs, but the seller kept saying, we just need to think about it. And out of frustration, he decided he just needed to get some fresh air and think of a solution. He was tired of bumping into this, so he stalled. He said, you guys stay here for a minute in the house. I'll be right back. And he went outside to get that fresh air. By the way, he told him he left something in his car. That was his genius idea. And he'd be right back. But it actually turned out to be a genius idea. Check this out. So Wayne went to his car and he sat there for a few minutes. And he noticed an old house flyer on the seat while he was trying to stay calm. And he picked it up and he went back inside. And he showed them the house flyer and they smiled. And he asked if they're ready to hire him. And they said yes. So what happened? It took a couple minutes for him to walk out, get the flyer, and come back in. How did they go from we want to think about it to yes? I mean, all he did was show him a house flyer, right? He'd already been showing him marketing, so that wasn't the real reason, was it? Well, what happened? Well, this is what happened. The step away technique was born because here's what went down. After the seller signed the listing agreement, Wayne had to ask, what happened when I was in my car? And the seller said, we just needed to talk and make sure that you're the right agent for us. We wanted to talk privately. It only took a moment. We both knew we wanted to hire you. We just wanted to confirm it with the other. And it was too hard to talk in front of you. What if one of us didn't like you? That would have been embarrassing. So we just needed a minute alone. Glad it worked out. Wow, how powerful was that, right? So this could save you days or even weeks of chasing that seller if you just agreed to walk out when they said, I want to think about it, and prevent the loss of revenue if they hire someone else after you leave. So the next time the seller is stalling for no reason, just step away to your car for a few minutes, give them time to talk, then ask them for the signature when you return. Well, I'm not sure why you showed up today. It could be you want to know how to handle the seller stall. I want to think about it. Or it could be that you want to improve your listing presentation so you sign more sellers and beat out other agents in this hyper-competitive market. It could be you want to gain confidence of knowing that you have an awesome listing presentation so you can start attracting sellers to you. It could be you want to learn how the top agents list dozens and even hundreds of homes a year, and you want to do it too. Well, if there's one thing you can take away from today, it's that I've cracked the code for modeling the top agent listing presentations and duplicating their results. It's literally changed my world and the world of my new listing agent and the world of my students. And it's very much a replicatable system that you can apply to your real estate practice. And you can finally have a consistent, dependable monthly income and the freedom to enjoy it. So the obvious question is, how can you apply this code, this system, this model of the top agent listing presentations to your business and create a consistent monthly income? Well, you have a choice. You can do it slowly using trial and error, taking some of what I shared today, or you can do it quickly using models in the Listing Agent Summit Recordings training program. When in doubt, bring in Einstein. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. So what is the Listing Agent Summit Recordings? Well, at the summit, 14 top agents demonstrated their listing presentation as we watched over their shoulder and onto their computer screen. And you can see and download their real-life listing presentation documents, hear and mimic their words and scripts, and model their best practices. And it was all recorded on video, so it's easy for you to consume. This is probably the fastest way to get from point A to point B. So you can get to your goal slowly in this funky looking car, or you can get there quickly in this hot red Ferrari. So what exactly is inside the summit? Well, there are 14 training videos of the top agents demonstrating exactly their listing presentation in detail. And I'll let you know, they kind of went about it in 3 different ways. The first group, they did a role play with me where they just treated me like the seller. They were the listing agent, and we went through their whole presentation. So you get to see it on the fly, right? And the second group, they were more analytical. So they went through and they described each step. They said, well, this is what I do first. This is why. This is what I do second. This is why. This is the document I show them next. And this is why. And this is what I point out when I see them and I talk to them. Okay. And then there was a third group, and they did kind of a combination. So they would do a role play, and then they'd break out of the role play and say, hey, this is why I said that. This is why I did it that way. And then they jumped back into the role play with me and went on. So it was really spectacular. There's a lot of different ways that you can learn the information from these top folks. Some of them, by the way, are about 45 minutes long. Some are about an hour, hour and a half. Some even went to 2 hours because they were so excited about sharing. They just shared everything. So it's an amazing, amazing amount of information if your goal is to become a top listing agent. Now, they also gave us samples and handouts of what they were using. So you get dozens of downloadable samples and handouts so you can see their entire listing system from start to finish, right? And by the way, these are in PDF format so that you can model them, not just take them over to, what is that, where you cut out the picture and you put it in there, the posting, it's eluding me, but Photoshop, there you go. It's not, you can't just Photoshop your face in on their body, but you can see what they're doing and you can mimic it, right? You can model it. It's things like their seller lead sheet. When they first take that call in, what do they say? What questions do they ask? What order do they do it in? How do they get from that call and turn it into an appointment with the qualified people, right? How do they screen out and make sure they only go on qualified appointments so they're not wasting their time? Then you got the pre-listing package. What do they send out? What do they send it by email? Do they send it by hand? Do they have it hand delivered? Do they have it mailed out? What is in the package that they send out to the seller before the appointment that's going to pre-sell them to that seller and make sure that seller wants them before they even get there, right? What are they doing in that? The listing presentation itself with the full marketing plan. You'll be surprised at how simple their marketing plans are. You'd think that these people making 7 figures are going to have these super complicated marketing plans. They don't. It's simple, but it looks great. They presented it in a fantastic way, and their marketing plan is probably very similar to what you're doing. It's just they present it better. Now, pricing charts and graphs. They're going to be able to figure out how to make sure that they price properly by showing them charts and graphs of what's happening in the general market. And that, again, the whole goal is to make sure they don't overprice that home so it just sits there. And then forms and checklists. Make sure that you stay on track to doing everything you need to do at the closing. It's already done. These people have already gone through. It's basically a system. Whenever I think of a checklist, I think of a system. So you're getting to see their whole system of how they do this process. And then seller handouts, right? So when you complete the listing, what do you hand the seller at the end to make sure they're ready for the next step? It's like preparing their home for the photos and doing a quick show checklist so they know how to prepare the home for the buyers they're going to be coming through. Plus, at the summit, I asked all 14 top agents how they handle the seller stall. I want to think it over. They're all going to answer that. You're going to get to see all of their representations. So 14 different solutions for how they're going to handle it. Well, I just gave you one, but you're going to see 13 more. So you can find out the one you like best. You'll have a whole arsenal at your disposal for when you go in and if the seller is having any challenges. At the end, and you're going to end that problem of that dreaded seller stall. You'll know exactly what to do the next time that seller says, I want to think it over. You'll know exactly how to turn that seller no into a yes, right? How cool is that? So it comes down to a simple idea. If you want to list homes like the top agents, just model the top agent listing presentations, and you're going to get the same results that they get. It's really that simple. It worked for me, it worked for my listing agent, and it'll work for you. So how much is this going to cost, right? So 19 years ago, I wanted to see inside the listing presentation of one of the top agents in the nation who was selling 200 homes per year. And at the time, that blew my mind. And I wanted to be just like him. So after 1 year of procrastinating, I finally broke down and I got his 1 hour videotape. I got to see his materials, listen to how he presented, and understand his philosophy. Was it worth it? Absolutely. I watched the video, I made it my own, I practiced, I went out, I started taking listings. Lots and lots of listings, right? Very quickly, I start to list 5 to 10 homes per month. Just imagine listing 5 to 10 homes every single month. Telling you, it creates calm in your life. I know it's crazy radical in the business, but it's calm financially because you know you're going to have some income and you're going to have consistent income. In my best month, I listed 21 homes in 30 days. And I want that for you, by the way. I want you to be listing 5, 10, 20 homes a month. It's fantastic. It's exciting. What did I do? I modeled the top agents and it worked. And I made my investment back with my first closing, my first listing. When it closed, I made a multiple of my investment. And then I made literally thousands of times my investment over the next few years. I would never trade that experience. I only wish I would not have procrastinated and waited that 1 year. What an error. I would have been earning that much faster. Then I discovered, again, it was duplicatable. And eventually I wanted to expand with a listing agent. So I hired a new agent who only had his license for 6 months and it only closed 2 buyer transactions. And he was listing homes in his second month with my reject leads. He was listed 14 homes in 30 days in his third month. Why do I tell you that? Because again, if this fella could do it, who only had 6 months of experience and only had done 2 buyer transactions, what could you do with this information? So these concepts are transferable. Anyone can learn how. Modeling successful systems is the key. So I modeled the top agents and quickly became a success. Then my new listing agent modeled me and ramped up fast. And now you can model the top agents and start listing homes. So what is this value? Well, that 1 hour VCR videotape that I purchased basically cost me $1,000 in today's money. At this summit, there are 14 top agents demonstrating their exact listing presentation and sharing their handouts. And so based on that, the 14 video recordings should cost $14,000. And they'd be worth it, right? Because a couple of closings, they'd be paid for, and then every listing after that would be pure profit. But you're not going to have to pay $14,000 to get these recordings. Not even $10,000. Not even $5,000. Now, what I should have done and what a lot of people told me to charge was $2,000, but I'm not going to do that. For right now, if you can get the entire summit recordings for only one payment of $997 today. That's it. One payment of $997, you get all 14 recordings. Now, I had some folks say, geez, Mike, is there a way to get a payment option here? And I start thinking, what is the best I could do? And so on this webinar today, this is what I'm going to do. You can get a 12 payment option. So you can do 12 monthly payments of $97 a month just on this webinar, this offer, and that'll get you into the system. You can start figuring out how to take those listings, and then it's like a no-brainer, right? And yes, you get the whole thing right now. You get the whole thing. I'm not going to hold back and just drip out one presentation at a time over one a month or something. You're going to get them all right now, all 14 presentations. Plus, I love action takers. So you got 3 fast action bonuses. And I call these student-driven bonuses, as these were all designed at the request of the Summit students to make this training even more easy and simple. Remember Einstein. So fast action bonus number 1 is the seller lead template. Okay, so when that call first comes in, what do you say? Well, I went out and I just modeled what the top agents were doing in these 14 top agents, and I created a simple Word template for you. So I did the work for you, so it's right there. You can use it right out of the box, or you can modify it. You can change it to match what you do in your market. If you like a certain question, you can add it. There are questions here that you don't like for some reason, you can take them out, but make it your own and just start using it so you can qualify those sellers and set those appointments. Okay, and then you're going to be setting appointments with the best leads out there. Now, fast action bonus number 2, really excited about it. I mentioned to you that you're going to be seeing the PDFs from these top listing agents, and you're going to be able to model off of it. And I said, how can I take that one step further? So what I did is I went out and I created a template that you can just plug right into. You can use right out of the box. Okay, and so I modeled the common elements of those top agents, and I put them into a 39-page fill-in-the-blank blank template in both Word and PowerPoint. So if you like to print it out on paper, it's in Word. And if you like it in PowerPoint, so you can do it as a slide presentation, it is there. All you have to do is enter your name, photo, phone, email, a couple little pieces of data, and you're ready to start listing like the pros. You can go out the very next day and start taking a listing with your new listing presentation template. Now, fast action bonus number 3. I got this request. People would say, geez, Mike, this is fantastic. I can't wait to be an incredible listing agent. I understand that I need to know how to present so I can get the signature. But Mike, what about getting more seller leads? What can you do for us there? Um, oh, I kind of skipped bonuses. That's kind of embarrassing. Let me tell you what this is first, and I'll answer that question. So I had a different question. That was, people are asking me, Mike, how did you list 21 homes in 30 days? And I said, you know what? I'll show you my presentation. I'll show you exactly what I did to list all 21 homes. You can just dive right in and mimic what I did. So I demonstrated my exact listing presentation that I used to list those 21 homes. You can download the presentation, look at it, modify it, change it, use it. It's yours. And you can also see my marketing plan, my price bracket strategy, and how I close for the listing and my full commission rate. Now, that price bracket strategy is really cool. What that does is it makes sure it's a way to make sure that that seller prices the property correctly and correctly the first time. And if for any reason they overprice, by using this concept up front, you can immediately get them to do a price reduction, say in a week or two. And in fact, I'd often get them to sign that right there at the listing, in the listing agreement, and additional provisions. So you'll get to see how that works. Now, this is where I was going a minute ago, and people are saying, geez, Mike, this whole program sounds awesome. I understand how to sign people up, but how do I get more sellers to present to? And so I came up with this very special webinar-only bonus, and this is going to show you how to get more listing appointments, get more sellers into your pipeline to start with. And that is, you're going to get the recordings from the Agent Lead Generation Summit, which was a fantastic summit with 17 top agents who answered this question in detail: what is your #1 best lead generation method in today's market? Look over their shoulder and onto their computer screen as they describe exactly what they're doing. You're going to get to see how you generate seller leads from Facebook ads, right? Not buyer leads, but seller leads, geographic farming, past clients, sphere of influence and referrals, which you should definitely have a program for. If anything, that's the biggest mistake I hear from people, is that they didn't get in on their past clients' sphere of influence and referrals early enough. Well, now you can see what all these top people are doing. It commonly generates about 50% of most top agents' businesses. Then you get, for new business, you got internet leads, pay-per-click, SEO, IDX, phone prospecting, open houses. You got all kinds of different ways to get these leads. Whatever your personality is, you can match into one of these and get those seller leads in to the system where you can start to qualify them. Well, when you invest in this program, you have my personal 30-day money-back guarantee. So here's what to do now. Just click the big red button under the screen that looks like this. And what's going to happen next is you'll see this page, enter your information. And then after that, pick your payment option, either the 1-pay or the 12-pay. And then click the big green order button at the bottom of that form. Okay, and you'll be taken here where you can, where within 15 minutes, you're going to receive an email with your username and password. And once you receive that, go ahead and plug it in. And when you do, you're going to go right inside the course with full access to everything. Again, it's not dripped out. It's all right there. For instance, here's the first video of Eric Hatch doing his listing presentation. He's going to talk about how he does in-office appointments and gets 85% show-up rate, 70% sign-up rate. Plus, he's going to go through just his entire presentation, show you all his marketing. It's pretty exciting. You can see that presentation. That whole thing is 94 minutes and 30 seconds. I mean, these guys get deep. We're not talking about some cursory thing where they just say, oh yeah, I list homes. They're going into all the details. Okay, and by the way, your fast action bonuses are going to be there as well. So the webinar bonuses that I've offered and the fast action bonuses, they're already preloaded in for the action takers today. So it all starts with taking action right now. You can do it slowly using trial and error, taking some of what I shared today, or you can do it quickly and model the 14 top agents inside the Listing Agent Summit recordings. So here's what to do now. Click that big red button on this page and get immediate access to the Listing Agent Summit recordings. Again, that includes the 14 videos of the top agents demonstrating their listing presentations. It includes downloads of dozens of samples, pre-listing packages, presentations, marketing plans, checklists, charts, graphs, amazing information. And then fast action bonus number 1, the seller lead template you can just plug right into. Now you know what to say when people call in. Fast action bonus number 2, listing presentation template already put together. All you got to do is plug in your name and a little bit of information, and you have that in Word and PowerPoint. Fast action bonus number 3, my listing presentation I use to list 21 homes in 30 days. You can see that whole thing. And then the webinar only bonus of this special bonus that we're just doing on the webinar, the Agent Lead Generation Summit, where you're going to see 17 top agents show you their #1 best lead generation method. Now you get lifetime access and a 30-day money-back guarantee. And you can do 1 payment or 12 payments, either one, whichever works best for you. But the 12 payment is only available on this webinar. Now, if you have any questions for me about anything, if you have questions about how do you deal with stalls, or if you have questions about the Listing Agent Summit, go ahead and type them into the question box on your screen. If it's your first time, you type in the information, you press enter, and this little white box pops open that says login. Forget about logging in. Just go to number 2 and type in your name and press go, and that'll put you into the chat. So I'm going to leave this screen up while I go over and look for questions, see what we got. Okay, so I'm looking down. Wow, I don't see any questions at this time, but I'll tell you one that just came in for me. Let me go ahead and answer that. It came by email today, and that question was, I'm trying to remember exactly how they phrased it, but basically in the stall process, if the this is what they asked: how can you screen out early in the process the sellers so that you have no stalls by the end? How can you screen out the sellers so there are no stalls at the end? And my answer was you can't, right? There's no way that you're going to be good enough to eliminate all stalls. However, by putting together a pre-listing packet and qualifying early and bringing people through a system, you reduce the options of having a problem at the end. Like sometimes they say, I want to think about it because their brother or cousin or somebody has a license. They're going to take this information they learn from you and go share it with them. Well, in those pre-screening questions, you're going to ask that. And somebody might not tell you the truth, but most people will. But if you didn't ask, you wouldn't have known, and you would have wasted all the time of preparation and presenting. So those are some examples. The key is to be prepared, to be confident and positive, and to go out there and talk as though you're going to get it. So let me double check and see if we've got any other questions that have popped up. And I don't see any questions, so I'm going to wrap up this training session. Let me tell you this, I don't want to forget. There it is. So I promised you a free surprise if you stay to the end. Okay, and here it is. It's a copy of my seller lead sheet. It's the seller intake form that I use to find seller motivation and timing and to set the appointment. It's what I used when I listed 21 homes in 30 days. Okay, so here's what you do. You open up a new internet browser window and type this in: www.mastermindagent.com/lead sheet. www.mastermindagent.com/lead sheet. If you type that in, you'll be taken right to the page where you can see that form and download it and put it into your system. So I really enjoyed chatting with you today. I hope you learned a lot about how to handle that stall. I want to think about it. You got a couple tools now that you can use to get over that hump and get more listing signed. So get out there, be productive today, and thank you so much for joining me for the training. Take care. Bye now.